In this video, we're going to be looking at how you can build your cardiovascular fitness, whether it's for an event like a Hyrox competition, other endurance event, or you just simply don't want to be out of breath anytime you do anything physical. As former strength coach Louis Simmons used to say, a pyramid is only as big as its base. And that puts things into perspective perfectly, as that's what we'll be talking about today, is building that base of fitness, building that base of the pyramid. So in order to get better performance, and even whether that's just you want to feel stronger, feel fitter, and more capable without actually doing any competitions, you'll need to work all of the areas we're about to talk about. That's where having a hybrid style program, kind of like the ones that I give to my clients, will give you a bit of work in all of those areas, giving you the most benefit. So think about a pyramid with your fitness in 3 main levels. First up, we have aerobic. This is going to be the base of the pyramid. This is quite simply your ability to do sustained work for long periods of time. This is where we're going to focus today's video specifically, because this really creates the biggest changes in your fitness overall. And it's essentially just your body's efficiency at delivering oxygen to the muscles for the work that you're doing. We build this up through doing sustained work or longer intervals, which we're going to talk about in today's video. Next step up on the pyramid is the anaerobic work. So this is the kind of stuff that makes you really huff and puff. We can't do this for any length of extended period of time because it builds up lactic acid in our muscles really quickly. And this is often the same thing that leads a lot of people to start feeling kind of sick when they're pushing too hard. And building this up can be done through things like strongman finishes, different intervals where your heart rate is getting much higher. And then kind of at the top of the pyramid, we've got lifting weights. So this is much shorter bursts of work where the focus is building muscle and strength. This is typically your main strength work. So using barbells, dumbbells, anything like that. We can do a few heavy reps without requiring huge amounts of energy. However, once we stop lifting the weight, our level of fitness is going to determine how quickly we recover and how efficiently we recover from that work. Something to consider is, where are you currently at now? This is really important to consider so that you're not setting yourself up for an injury by overdoing it too soon. So here's some quick questions to ask yourself before putting any kind of plan together. Number 1, what's your current fitness level right now? And how do you know that? What's your measurement that you're using to determine how fit you are? It could be that you could run a certain distance, or you can get a certain number on a fitness score. Whatever it is, just keep a note of it, because that's something that you can use to gauge whether you're getting fitter. Secondly, what's realistic for your situation, your circumstances, and your schedule? If you expect yourself to be doing 7 sessions a week, but realistically you can really only get 2 sessions a week, you're going to constantly feel like you're letting yourself down and that you're failing at this, which is not good for consistency overall. Next, what kind of modalities will work for you? Are you already a runner? If not, jumping in too soon into running may actually lead to getting injuries, which again will set you back and impact your consistency. So if you are planning on primarily working towards running, look at building something else in to your plan to help you build up the fitness while you adapt to the running, which we're going to talk about some examples in just a little bit. And do you have any access to any other bits of cardio equipment, such as a stationary bike, a ski erg, rowing machine, things of that nature? There's no right or wrongs with these questions. It's just determining where you're at right now and what's realistic for you, and then starting from there with a goal to actually build up over time. So how do we build our base of fitness? To build up that bottom portion of the pyramid, our aerobic fitness, we're going to be spending most of our time doing zone 2 work. So what is zone 2 work? Well, basically, if you think about several zones, you've got 1 through 6, and each represent a different intensity level. So zone 1, for example, would be like sitting here, me filming this video, talking to you, or doing something that's really easy for you to do. Right through to a zone 6, which is pushing as hard as you can possibly go. It's flat out, you can't really do it for very long. At a zone 2, we're a little bit above resting. It's something that's getting us breathing a little bit heavier, but it's not really strenuous for us to do. This is where you're going to spend most of the time doing your aerobic work. The main factor is going to be the time that you spend in zone 2 and just increasing that duration over time. The more time you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. However, you have to do what's doable for you and build up over time. There's a couple of ways that you can determine whether you're in a zone 2. One of those is by using a heart rate. So you can use heart rate zones to determine whether you're in zone 2 or in the various other zones. And roughly a zone 2 is about 60 to 75% of your max heart rate. So in order to use the heart rate method, All we need to do is figure out what that is. So we can basically take 220 and then minus our age, and that gives us a rough estimate as to what our max heart rate would be. Everyone's going to be individual, so you kind of have to treat it as a bit of a guide. So for example, if we had someone who was 30 years old, they would have a max heart rate of about 190 beats a minute. Then we can take 190 and we can work out 60 to 75%, and that is your zone 2 range. Another way to think about it is imagine a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being really, really difficult, 1 being really, really easy. We want to be at a 5 to 6 out of 10 on that scale. So it's not really, really difficult, but we're not just sitting down either, just completely resting. And the next way you can do it is the simple talk test. So as you're doing zone 2 work, you should be able to hold a conversation somewhat easy. It shouldn't be really, really easy. You should be straining just a little bit, but you shouldn't be out of breath, having to take really big breaks in between words. It should be just manageable for you to do. And one of the things to keep in mind with this sort of training is that you are going to get fitter, which means that over time you're going to be working at a higher intensity while keeping your heart rate and your exertion rate in the same zone, because now your heart and lungs are more efficient at delivering oxygen to the working muscles. So now that we know what zone 2 is, how long do we need to train in there each week? About 180 minutes is a really good goal to work towards. This can be broken up into multiple workouts, or you can do simply longer sessions but fewer of them. Start with what's doable right now and then build up over time. So think about your own schedule, your own circumstances, and then think about how many days a week you could realistically commit to working on this specifically. For example, if it's 3 days per week, you could look at in week 1 doing 3 sessions of 20 minutes. In week 2, you might bump that up to 3 sessions of 30 minutes. Week 3 then becomes 3 sessions of 40 minutes. And by week 4, we're up to 50 to 60 minutes for 3 sessions a week. Once you reach this point, you've got one of 2 options. You can simply keep adding 10 minutes onto those intervals that you're already doing, or you could take one of those sessions away and bump those other 2 up to an even longer duration. You could do 2 sessions of 90 minutes. The thing to keep in mind when you are doing zone 2 work is if you start to struggle and your breathing starts to get raggedy and it's getting difficult, chances are you're working at a higher zone and you need to pull things back to what's achievable for you right now. And that will change from time to time. If we haven't had enough sleep, if we're under a lot of stress, our body's going to feel that and it's probably not going to be able to perform as well as it normally does. So you kind of have to have a bit of self-regulation with it and know what your body is doing. I used this strategy of training in zone 2 to help me prepare for my first ever Hyrox competition. There's a lot of running in Hyrox, as well as other movements such as the ski erg, rower, and many other different things. It's also a really long time to be working at a high heart rate. The average finish time for men across the board was about 90 minutes. So having a good base of fitness is going to be paramount. So the main goal for me in the lead up to this was to improve my running, because that was going to be the modality that was used the most in the event. However, I wasn't at a point where running distances was either easy or felt comfortable in any way. Prior to this, I didn't really do much running at all, so this was something that I really needed to work on and to improve. So I used a combination of smaller bouts of running to build up the capacity for my legs to handle the running, and then supplemented that with work on the bike. So I would do my zone 2 work on the bike where I could sit in zone 2 for much longer periods of time. And this simple strategy allowed me to build up my fitness while also building up my capacity for running without overdoing it and risking getting an injury. The good thing with the bike is it's also low impact, so there's not really a risk of getting injured because of the impact of things such as running. You can still do a lot of volume and still get the benefits of your fitness improving. So I prepared for this for about 3 months, and over that period of time, this is kind of what it looked like, what I was doing. Month 1 was 2 to 3 sessions of 45 to 60 minutes each on the bike, and 1 to 2 smaller run sessions per week. Month 2 was 2 60-minute sessions on the bike per week, and 2 to 3 mid-distance runs per week. Month 3, this moved to 1 to 2 sessions of 60 minutes on the bike and 3 run sessions each week, which were increasing in distance to get me ready for the distance for the Hyrox. The bike sessions were done on a Peloton bike, and I was using the Power Zone endurance classes as this zone 2 work. These classes are specifically designed to target the zone 2 area, which was perfect for me. That's what I needed to spend time working in. And it also helped keep things interesting because it can get pretty boring if you're just sitting there staring at a wall, riding a bike, not really doing anything. Alternatively, if you don't have a Peloton bike and you do have a stationary bike, this is where you would want to look at potentially putting on a movie, getting into the zone, getting working, having that going so you can just get into the heart rate that you need to be at, stay there, and just keep things interesting, keep yourself motivated to keep going. The running sessions were small interval work based on time. So this helped me build up the capacity to run longer distances in each session, specifically conditioning my lower legs to handle the increased volume. As I got closer to the event, I was running longer distances and more often, and I reduced the sessions on the bike. And in the end, I found that this strategy was quite effective. I was able to get through it on the day without any hassles running, and I felt like my fitness was at a level that really got me through it quite well. Hopefully you found this video helpful, and hopefully you got some ideas about how you can incorporate some of this stuff for yourself, and that you now have a starting point to start building on your aerobic base and start really building that base of the pyramid. If you have any questions about anything we went over, leave those down below in the comment section and I'll answer them for you. Thanks heaps for watching, and I'll see you next time.